Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week on MMA Junkie we take a quick spin through the biggest headlines in the sport. This week again, it is Gorgeous George and Goze on the clock, so let's get right into it. Guys, Conor McGregor, despite not having a win since November of 2016, he's still the biggest star in the sport, and now he's got a fight to book as well. We know it's Cerrone at UFC 246. So we're talking about in-cage action now instead of stuff that's happening outside. But look, there's no title fight at stake here. There's nothing happening at lightweight because this is a welterweight fight. They're not going to trash talk. They seem to be having a nice time back and forth on social media leading into this. So what's at stake in this fight? We'll put 3 minutes on the clock. George, you get it started.
Yeah, maybe some of that BMF residual might still be there. But more than anything, look, the biggest name in the game is fighting again. I was pumped up. You know, I was gobbling some turkey on Thanksgiving when I saw that. And then you're right, John. You start going through some of the details. You're like, wait a second. Okay, it's at welterweight. I don't get that. And, yeah, they are being cordial, but they'll ramp that up. Trust me. Somebody's going to ask them, hey, who's the A side? Who's the B side? Or something like that. I'm telling you, the Eagles will clash. So I'll be into that. I'll be into it once the fight week, comes about. But I'm curious because I've seen a lot of replays of Khabib versus Conor as of late, watching that. And nothing pumps me up, man, when there's gold at stake and being the king of the hill in your division. And that's not – I don't think that fight gets them anything closer. It just gets them back in the UFC, gets them back fighting, gets some rust off, makes money for a lot of people. Our website traffic goes through the roof. I mean, there's a lot of W's, trust me. But I love the scheme of a division. Who's the champ? Who are the contenders? I'm not getting it. That's the part that pisses me off.
That's what I think is most interesting about this is people are wondering exactly how this impacts everything. I mean, we know it impacts the lightweight division a little bit, even though this fight's happening at 170 pounds. And I will say there's a part of me that wonders if Conor McGregor is just baiting Cowboy just a little bit, being nice right now, and then he's going to, if a week of the fight or two weeks out, he starts to ramp it up. But Goze, what do you think? What's at stake here? Because I do feel like there is a lot going on here in terms of Conor McGregor, right? I mean, look, like I said, he hasn't won in quite a while. Is this important? I mean, what happens if the guy loses? What do you feel is at stake here?
I think there's a lot at stake for Conor McGregor. The match itself is somewhat of a placeholder type fight. But for Conor McGregor, the guy needs to win. This is a fight where there's no belt on the line. He's already kind of stated that there's no trash talk. Why did we tune in to see him and Khabib fight? There was a belt on the line, and somebody had to eat crow. And this has none of that. So I'm hoping that it turns around a little bit. But as far as what's at stake, it's huge for Conor McGregor. The guy has to win. He needs it really bad. And what's wrong with the good little scrap? It's a great fight. On paper, it's a great fight, so we're all going to tune in.
And it's going down in 6 weeks. That's the good part.
I was going to say, I mean, that's part of the fun of a Conor McGregor fight, right, is he ends up talking trash. He ends up making stakes of his own, right, even before there were titles on the line. But I guess the bright side of it is it is happening. It's kicking off the year. It's going to be a good start. I mean, this can still be a fun fight, right? I mean, I'm seeing some people say the fact that it's 170 pounds means that it's somehow going to be less of a quality level Conor. I don't necessarily feel that way. I still feel like this is going to be a fun fight.
Yeah, it's going to be a banger, man. Big time. And when the Irish invade Vegas, there's just nothing like it. It's really, really special around here. So, look, I'm into the fight. I'm into the matchup. And I really, really feel like these guys will somehow get into it on fight week especially. But the whole thing about the division, I think there's something that you just said. It's the beginning of the year. I think he wants to make the Forbes list. I saw an interview where he said 3 fights in 2020. That's what he wants. He wants 3 fights, and I think he wants to top Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Listen, it's easy to say we're not excited about it right now. People are going to be excited on fight week, no question about it. All right, well, listen, Conor's the biggest star in the sport, but it's Khabib Nurmagomedov that is the champion right now, and finally, he's got a fight booked as well. We know he's going to fight Tony Ferguson in April. Of course, we were supposed to see that fight 4 times before, if you can imagine that. So I'm seeing people here saying, I don't know if I want to get excited about this yet. I don't know if I want to talk about this fight yet. So I don't know. What are you guys expecting out of the booking itself and out of the fight now that we finally got it? 2 minutes. Go.
All right. I'm very excited about the matchup, but that only lasted just a second because, given the history, we've seen this fall apart a lot, and it's actually kind of a long ways away. There's so much action to be happy about right now. What I am happy about is the fact that things make sense. This was the right fight to make. Yep. You have to tip your cap to the UFC. This is what had to be done, and I'm happy about that. In a few months, once guys get through training camp and all that, then I'll start talking about the fight because it's a classic on paper. It's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, no question about it. You're right about that. The right fight to make. I was so worried that Tony Ferguson was going to somehow hose or messed around here, and I'm glad that didn't happen. But I don't know. I mean, I hate being that bad to say, like, I can't get excited about this yet. You know, I got to. And I see a lot of people saying that, say, oh, wait till the week of the fight before we start talking about that. Is that where we are as MMA fans? We got to be that bad? I mean, shouldn't we be fired up about this?
Yeah, we're fired up about the matchup. You got a clear number 1 versus a clear number 2. I love that. And like Goze said, we dodged a few obstacles. You see Floyd Mayweather and Dana White at a Laker-Boston Celtic game, and you're like, oh, my God, what are they cooking up? You know, could we have another boxing versus MMA match? You heard Tony, you know, on Instagram saying, all right, let's cut the crap. Let's get this deal done. So you could tell some negotiating was going on, some squabbing. But they finally get it done. I am excited. But you do take a look at the calendar. You're like, woo, we still got to get through, you know, all of this year, a few months of next year, and then we can get pumped up. And in the meantime, we're going to get a lot of world. There's 3 title fights next week. Then we got what we set up with Conor and you know, Donald Cerrone. That's going to be awesome. And then Houston, Texas gets 2 matchups. So, you know, we'll have time to get pumped up about it then. But, I mean, Khabib is riding camels in the desert. You know, Tony's breakdancing somewhere in L.A. There's just no point in that right now. I think they should just enjoy the holidays and then ramp it up at the beginning of the new year. We need one of those press conferences. Yeah. That'll get things started.
I've been wondering if we're going to have one of those in Vegas. I hope it does happen. I've been trying to get some little intel. So we'll see. Yeah, April's a long way away, but I'm excited anyway. I'm not going to be that guy.
Still got to do our taxes before then, too.
All right, listen, because it was Thanksgiving here in the United States, we didn't have any real notable MMA events, but there was some grappling action. At least Polaris 12 over in Wales was on UFC Fight Pass. Luke Rockhold was on there. He took on a phenom in Nick Rodriguez. Rockhold got cut early on. You're not supposed to get cut in a grappling match. He got cut early on. He ultimately lost the decision to a tough guy, but he's kind of admitted that he's not really down right now, and he's kind of lost his motivation. He's 1-3 in the last 4 fights in the UFC. I don't know, man. Where does Luke Rockhold go from here? Let's start out with George. 2 minutes.
All right, so for right now, I would just like him to find his mojo back. Like Stella, man, go to the Caribbean and get your groove back one way or another. Maybe this was the process of it. Maybe, you know, once he got competitive and those guys were doing those collar ties and slapping each other 209 style, it looked like a hockey match at some point. It looked like one of them slap contests on YouTube. I couldn't tell what was going on. I was like, where's the grappling? You know, I really wanted it to hit the ground. But you could tell that maybe that breathed a little bit of a fire in him. However, let's get serious here. MMA is just a whole other animal. Those knockouts, you really, really need to look after yourself and make sure you're good to go in that department. If you're good to go, and that usually comes along with some time off, then, hey, let's revisit it. One thing about Luke Rockhold, he was a champion in Strikeforce and the UFC. So if he were to just retire tomorrow, I mean, there would be no shame in that career, you know what I mean? But yeah, I still think there's more gas left in the tank. I think it's at 185, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to happen at 205. And luckily he has those outlets of being able to still model. I see him on Ruka. I think earlier in the summer he was still doing something with Polo, so you know, good on him.
Yeah, interesting. It's funny that you say 185, not 205, because I think a lot of people feel the opposite, that it should be 205, that he doesn't need to go through those weight cuts again. So, Goze, what about you? I mean, I guess it matters whether or not his body is holding up, but he looked pretty physically good in this grappling match, even though it didn't work out his way. What do you think about Rockhold?
No, I mean, look, this is a guy that grew up in that AKA system, right? Those guys, they don't half-ass anything. They play for keeps. So really, if he's going to come back and do MMA, which I'm imagining if he's doing grappling, it means he still has a little bit of that fire. You have to have the whole fire, though, to compete in the UFC and to even walk into that gym at AKA. So I'm going to say if he comes back and he takes this serious, it's got to be the only thing he does, because look at a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's not modeling. He's not doing any of that, and he's undefeated.
Yeah, you're right about that. Listen, I think Luke Rockhold physically, as long as his body's holding up, man, I think there's still, you said it, man, you could see the competitive fire was there in this grappling match. So hopefully he can get his mind right and come back. I hope there's good days ahead for Luke Rockhold. All right, Tito Ortiz. The guy got pissed at us. The guy went off on MMA Junkie on social media. Hurt my feelings a little bit, man. He called us clickbait. I don't think we're that. But what he said was that, you know, even at his age, he thinks he could still go with John Jones. Now, of course, he's facing a 42-year-old former wrestler this weekend at Combate Americas. I don't think any of us would pick Tito Ortiz over John Jones if for some reason they were to get matched up right now. But when you hear fighters say stuff like this, what's your take on it? I wonder, because he took some backlash in social media, and I understand, but what do you think when you hear stuff like that? Let's put 2 minutes. Go.
I think if you get asked that question, you have to respond the way Tito Ortiz responded. Like, he owes it to himself He owes it to Combate Americas. Like, you're not going to order a Combate America pay-per-view if a guy's going in there telling you he's not 100% or he's less of what you're used to seeing. He has to respond that way. Now, if the match were to go that way, I mean, come on, guys. We've had some great fighters face John Jones in their prime and not do very well against him. So an older Tito Ortiz, I don't know that he's going to do very well, but you have to say those type of things.
Yeah, see, I kind of side with that as well. Let me get your take first, George. I mean, when a guy says that, again, Tito Ortiz, does he really believe that in his heart of hearts? I don't know, but it does sound like the right thing to say. But when you hear a fighter say something like that, it seems like an outlandish claim. But at the same time, I mean, that's kind of something that you have to believe if you're stepping in the cage, right?
Right. You have to have that full confidence. And these are alpha males to the umpteenth level. They're never going to like really just give in and say, yeah, he'd kick my ass. So he said what he said. And I went back and listened to that interview a few times just to make sure, like, were we out of line in any way? But we weren't. He said it. We put a quote out there, and there's this story that basically Junkie style. We always support it with the facts. I don't like that whole thing like clickbait and fake news. And the only one that makes sense is picks or it didn't happen. All right, that one I'll buy into. But listen, he answered it the way he was supposed to answer it. He's promoting this fight that he has coming up for Combate, the pay-per-view versus Alberto Del Rio. I get that part. But, yeah, I mean, he's way past his prime, and there's no shame in any of us saying that it probably wouldn't be a competitive fight. The odds makers would have a huge odds on the John Jones side, and, I mean, it would basically take – I wouldn't say a miracle. He's got 4-ounce gloves. Anything can happen, but – man, 10 out of 10, I think John still wins.
I think that's what hurt my feelings about the most, though, is that I think that is the mindset that fighters have to have. I thought it was a great view into what a fighter has to believe. They have to think I'm that good. And I thought it was cool. He said, listen, you think I'm over the hill? Come in the gym and watch me work. I'm still working as hard as ever, man. So I respect that. All right, last thing, guys. We do have a fight this weekend. The UFC is in Washington, D.C. A couple of interesting matchups at the top. You've got kind of young versus old, new versus, more established. Alistair Overeem, the 20-year veteran against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, this undefeated up-and-comer. Cynthia Calvillo is still fresh in her career, but she was like the hot name not that long ago against Marina Rodriguez, who's still relatively new in her career. So out of these top four that we got there, I want to know, pick one name. Who could gain the most by a very, very impressive win? Let's just do this one quick. 1 minute. George, get it started.
All right, and Rozenstruik, because Overeem has been ranked for such a long time. He's been a world champion in many other organizations. So, yeah, you go in there and knock out the Reem, your stock is definitely going to rise. And then as far as Rodriguez and Calvillo, similar in age, but yeah, you said it perfectly. Less established and more established. Calvillo's more established, but Rodriguez is streaking, so we'll see what happens there. But I think Rozenstruik is the one with the most to gain.
Goze?
It's got to be Rozenstruik. I mean, look, if you're a promoter, there isn't anything that's more attractive than trying to promote an undefeated heavyweight. That's the dream, right? How many times did we tune in to see Mike Tyson? We knew he was dominant, but we tuned in anyway. That's the best thing that you can promote. I think he has the most to gain because a victory here puts him right in that mix.
Yeah, I got to agree with you guys. The co-main, I like it a lot. Marina Rodriguez, I'm very impressed there. Pay attention to her. She's a nice up-and-comer. Calvillo seems like she lost a little bit of her steam, but she's still dangerous as well. But I think both you guys are right. Rozenstruik, man, this could be a breakout moment. By the way, should just say, obviously Rozenstruik in there because of Walt Harris. I know thoughts and prayers don't always do a whole lot, but we know what Walt is going through, and obviously we support you and love you here at MMA Junkie, so hopefully things get better for that family. Listen, that's all the time we got. There'll be plenty of action this weekend. We'll talk about it all on Spinning Back Clique.